Good morning. Welcome on your TVs in Texas and Louisiana. You're watching on the Smart Money Culture TV network, where it is always a pleasure to be here. Lots of great show lined up. There's a lot going on in the world. I'll tell you that right now. There is a lot. It's a lot. It's hard. As a matter of fact, we had 3 attacks yesterday in Russia. 3 attacks in Russia, in Russian Federation land, at least two, but it makes sense that the third one was also coordinated. But at least 2 were coordinated by the U.S. using U.S. weapons. So the question comes, the first question, of course, that comes up, and of course the Russians have promised retaliation, but will they retaliate? Because historically, if you look at how they operate, they are very they'll stay on their plan. They will not deviate. So the plan is to finish this military operation in the Ukraine, and they may not respond right now. I'm not sure, but I'll tell you what, guys, we are we're in uncharted territory. This is serious. This is very serious. The U.S. In coordination with Ukraine, or however you want to do that, killed moms and dads and kids and injured 100 moms and dads and kids on the beach yesterday, hanging out on the beach. And that's really serious. And I know, okay, well, the missile was going one way and then it got shot in the air. Well, they're shooting at a civilian area, and if they were shooting at one of our bases down in Key West, and that missile got shot out of the sky and it hit a bunch of beachgoers in Key West or in Miami or something like that, there would be we would be calling for all types of responses. I'm sure. I know a lot of people don't support over the war over there. I'm sure some people do. That is something else. I want to know what you think. Is Russia going to strike back? What are they going to do? Are they just going to wait? What do you think? Attack. Then there was another attack in Russia using the same bombs supplied by the U.S. a few hours later, and that killed a bunch of people as well. I don't think that was a civilian target. I think that was, and again, I don't think that the original target was civilian. There, I think it was a military target, but it was in a civilian area. Or I don't know if it was a military target there in Crimea either. But that's major. I think that is definitely going to come back to bite us. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on it. You can let me know if you're watching on X or something, on Networks Manager. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Obviously on YouTube, you can comment as well. If you're watching on TV, you can always give us a ring as well. Let me see here. My banners. I have banners up here. What do I have? I think I have my phone number on one of these banners. You can send me a text. Boom. Bruce, 202-436-6577. Send me a text or call me. Let me know, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen here? So we as well. So that was 2 attacks. We have the two attacks with the U.S. military bombs and coordination, because here's the thing about those bombs is they had to have coordination from Washington in order for them, and their cluster munitions. I mean, I don't know. I know the phosphorus that the Israelis are using, that is illegal to use in war. There are rules to war. People don't know that, but there are rules to war. And cluster munitions, I thought were illegal. Now, we have been using those anyway for a long time. I have noticed that, so I could be wrong, but definitely white phosphorus is illegal to use, and the Israelis have continued to use it over and over again. There's a couple of things here. You have war is horrible, okay? But you have civilian operations, and those are like police operations, and then you have war. And this new type of situation that we have coming up, I think that we're blurring the lines here. And a police operation is a police operation. In civilian areas, you go in, you get the people out, you run an operation, and then the war is something else. It is a mess, really. So the as well, then we had a terrorist attack on Dagestan or something like that, one of the Russian federations. And I wanted to play a clip because it is important to remember that ISIS, as well as Hamas, was started by U.S. and Israel. And so when they say that ISIS does something, that's the U.S. That's the forces that we or the U.S. has used over and over again. This is a video of Ron Paul where he talks about that. I'm going to share it because I think it's important historically for people to know. Ron Paul was one of the last great guys that used to tell us the truth. There's only two real guys in Washington anymore that tell the truth, or at least try to. And that's Ron Paul's son, Rand Paul, and Thomas Massie. So we have one senator and one House representative. I know Matt Gaetz tries, but they seem to have him by the kahuna, by the.
What's happening in the Middle East, and in particular with Gaza right now, we have some moral responsibility for both sides in a way, because we provide help and funding for both Arab nations and Israel. And so we definitely have a moral responsibility, and especially now today, the weapons being used to kill so many Palestinians are American weapons, and American funds essentially are being used for this. But there's a political liability, which I think is something that we fail to look at, because too often there's so much blowback from our intervention in areas that we shouldn't be involved in. You know, Hamas, if you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel, because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat. And you say, well, yeah, that was better then and served its purpose, but we didn't want Hamas to do this. So then we as Americans say, well, we have such a good system, we're going to impose this on the world. We're going to invade Iraq and teach people how to be Democrats. We want free elections. So we encourage the Palestinians to have a free election. They do, and they elect Hamas. So we first indirectly and directly through Israel help establish Hamas. Then we have election. Then Hamas becomes dominant, so we have to kill them. You know, it just doesn't make sense. During the 80s, you know, we were allied with Osama bin Laden. And we were contending with the Soviets. It was at that time our CIA thought it was good if we radicalized the Muslim world. So we financed the madrasa schools to radicalize the Muslims in order to compete with the Soviets. There's too much blowback. There's a lot of reasons why we should oppose this resolution. It is not in the interest of the United States. It's not in the interest of Israel either.
So nobody talks about that, of course, but it's obviously true. You know, I'm getting to be an old guy, so I've been around for a long time. I remember when Ron Paul was one of the first guys that I saw them steal the election from. Ron Paul was an overwhelming crowd favorite. Man, they shut him down quick. Ron Paul wanted to end the Fed. Speaking of the Fed, we'll start to dive into the money here a little bit. So one of the ways, and actually I'm going to dive into the money in a minute, because the reason I played that is because the terrorist attack in Dagestan is it has all the hallmarks of U.S. intelligence and involvement. And likely the Mossad too. CIA and Mossad are like sister organizations. They even had a video of some of the guys, right? And of course, the masks that they're wearing nowadays, these masks are next level. The CIA and the FBI have been using these masks forever. So when you see somebody, when you see a video of somebody, we don't only have to worry about deep fakes. Okay, we also have to worry about masks. These masks are something else. I mean, here I'll share another one. This is I've been kind of talking about it a little bit. It has been a little bit coming mainstream on things, but this is, here we go.
The mask is the culmination of a lot of work that we did at CIA over a period of, I'd say, 10 years, developing that technology. It was a big challenge to come up with something that finally actually animated and worked to really fool a person closer than 3-4 feet from you. But we did.
They learned the art.
We actually brought Hollywood back into our labs at one point to look at what we had done. And they were stunned. They're absolutely stunned.
Congratulations.
The fact that we're allowed to show it tells me the CIA have moved on. I don't know what they're doing. I shouldn't know. I'm dying to know, but I don't know.
Relax. You'll get to see it all later on.
So I'm proud to show people how good we got to that point and let them imagine. So what are they doing now?
Jana Mendez retired from the CIA as chief of disguise after more than 25 years with the agency. When she left in 1993, the masks they were making could not be detected in a face-to-face conversation. These declassified photos show Mendez in disguise while meeting with President Bush in the early 90s. Although she was there to brief the president on the new CIA disguise program, nobody in the room knew she was wearing a mask until she removed it. Imagine the advances that have been made in the last 30 years.
Crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. I'm like a one-man show, so I'm posting as I do it. We're live. We are live TV here. So if that was 30 years ago, 40 years ago or something, what do you think they're doing now? And that's part of our problem. So, all right, let's dig into the markets a little bit here. One of the things before I bring on the great Matt Dixon here, I have one of the things I wanted to cover that I did ask about is the Fed. So the Federal Reserve is a privately held entity, and it is who control. Basically, they own the U.S. at this point. In 1913, there was legislation to put in the central bank. The central bank is able to tax us as much as they want. They fund everything. That's why they are able to pay everybody off. They're able to, look at JFK and all these things, right? They more than likely, almost certainly were involved in that. They will almost certainly run the intelligence agencies. They run the country. So one of the things the central bank does is they are involved in market making, and market making is an important part of their tool. And this is why I know a lot of people say, Bruce, you need to tell people to buy gold and silver because everything's going to crash. It's all going to crash. And they're right. It is going to crash. But the repertoire of tools that are available for them to take your money, and I'll put this on here too. You go to atcostmetals.com, use referral link clubs. You can buy gold, silver, palladium, platinum at cost. Because I do agree that you need to get into different assets like gold and silver, but it's fairly easy for them to crash these markets too, okay? But what they do with their market making, and you look at Bitcoin and some of these other ones, right? They had everybody buy in. Everyone bought into the ETFs very high. Now, the powers that be know full well that the wars in Ukraine and Israel are going to ramp up. They're ramping up, right? They're building the armaments. They're striking the deals. I have friends in the intelligence community. They had contracts a year before this mess started in Israel. Just happened to be stationed over in Doha, or just happened to be, doing this over here or over there, right? Just happened that it lined up. No, it didn't just happen. These people know what's going on. So if they pump the market up, people buy in at the ETFs at a higher price, and then they crash the market, people sell and they buy back in, and they buy the stuff back. That liquidity between where the people bought and where they sold is gone for all intents and purposes. Now, if you're the market maker and you buy those assets back, you can make the argument that now, once the market goes back up, the circulation is still there. But if the central bank is the one doing it, and they're in the business right now of taking money out of circulation because there's too much money in circulation, that's one of the ways they very effectively do it. And they do it very effectively on commodities like Bitcoin. Okay, I mean, they use all types of different markets. Markets basically are a construct to take liquidity from the masses. But anyway, my point is, do you think that that's what's happening right now in the commodities market? Because right now there's way too much US dollars in circulations. Inflation is out of control. And now they're going to print another 100 billion. You watch, they're going to come, they're going to start, all the mantras already started, legislation's already started. So they're going to start printing more, they're going to start printing more money because, of course, we have all these wars going on. Everybody gets paid, right? And everybody, it's a horrible business. A lot of people are dying. Okay, I have the market report from the great Matt Dixon. I have the market report here, who is launching, I think, relaunching their token. So I got a recorded thing, but let's see what he has to say. We also have PCE numbers coming out, which is the inflation numbers on consumer goods. But anyway, the point of that whole thing was people are saying, oh, the dollar's going to crash and this and that and the other. And yes, it will crash. It will go to zero. But I don't think it's going to crash right now. I used to say I think it was going to crash right now. But if you were able to tax the American people as much as you wanted whenever you wanted to, would you go broke? If you were able to market make or manipulate, or however you want to say it, the markets, if you had so much available cash that you could crash markets and remove liquidity from the markets that way, if you could raise interest rates and remove liquidity from the markets that way, would you go broke? So although I do think the US dollar is going to crash, I don't think it may not be as fast as everybody thinks it is. Now, if we spiral into World War III, then of course. But I have been saying it's going to crash for 10 years. So, like I always say, they have a lot of tools at their disposal, guys. A lot of tools at their disposal. They can tax you indefinitely.
Good morning, Bruce. Good morning, Impact Money viewers. So we've continued to bleed across the board on the crypto assets, the traditional assets, dollar index, sorry, not dollar index, talking about SPX here, so S&P 500 is still remaining robust, as is the Dow. Stock markets are reasonably stable across the board, but crypto is continuing to bleed, and we can see that here with the Bitcoin price down now at 60. So it's fallen quite a bit from the all-time high, but nothing really, when you think about the context of cryptocurrency history and Bitcoin history in particular, there have been nothing major in terms of this correction. So we had 73,000, we're at 62,000. In percentage terms, that's not a tremendous magnitude of fall compared with, as I say, we've had 100% falls, 80%, well, not 100% obviously, but 80% falls, 70-80% falls in the past. So there have been much more substantial falls. So where exactly are we now in the market with Bitcoin? So here is the previous all-time high that we registered back in March of this year. And we can see that we've had an A, a B, and a C to the downside, giving us potentially a W wave. Now that could be the correction complete, and we could be beginning to push towards the upside. So we could have wave 1, 2, and then in a smaller fractal, wave 1 and 2, and we could be ready to push strongly to the upside. Or alternatively, it could be that this W wave is just part of the correction. We've had an X wave as another part of the correction, and now we're going to have a Y wave to the downside. And the logical target for that downside would probably be 54,800. Now, I'm very much hoping Bitcoin doesn't drop that low, and I think it's probably unlikely. So I would tend to favor the earlier scenario where we are already have completed the correction and we're working on an impulse higher with a correction lower, and I think we should get another impulse higher reasonably soon. And the reason for that thinking is looking at other assets, and I always look for correlations across the board with those other assets. So we'll look at a couple of those. Whilst the next door neighbor I have here is Litecoin. Once again, Litecoin has dipped slightly below that stop loss area, that zone where I would normally look to buy in, dollar cost average in, with protections just below. Now it's dipped below that, and it's at the moment it is below it. You can either buy in with a stop loss just a bit further below. I mean, you can see we have actually dipped this low on 3 or 4 previous occasions. So it's not to say it won't bounce suddenly higher, but there's risk of downside. So you've got to be very, very careful about jumping into this market. It's like catching a falling knife, as they say. You don't know quite how low it's going to go. So normally you would wait for some kind of concerted turnaround, a turnaround which is confirmed by 2 or more indicators to tell you that to jump into the market is a safer bet and the probabilities are back on your side. But right now, there's nothing really compelling to tell you to jump into this market. And we saw Bitcoin potentially low. We can even see here with Litecoin, potential correction here of 3 or 5 wave move down, then we're going to kind of correction sideways slightly up, and then we're moving down again. So there's nothing yet to say this downward correction is complete, but it does look like a corrective move. And so once this is complete, I do believe, as I got indicated by the arrow here, that we should push up substantially higher. So what's going to push that up? I'm just going to jump across to what I think may be the impetus to push this higher. We've got core CPE. Now, CPE, personal consumption expenditure, is the metric that the Fed prefer to use to measure inflation. And we can see it's much closer to that target 2% level that they're looking for than CPI, which is still well above 3%. So the expectation is that we're going to see, this is coming on Friday, we're going to see a reduction from 2.8 to 2.6, and that's on core, and on headline we'll see 2.7 to 2.6. Now, if we see below these 2.6 levels, that's probably going to be positive for the risk asset markets, and I'm hoping, and I actually believe we probably will see below 2.6%. I look at something else called Truflation, which is what I think is an independent, but I believe is a better measure of inflation, and they've got it almost bang on the 2% mark. So I do think that I'm hopeful and probable that we'll see below this 2.6%, which is closer to the Fed's target, which would mean that the Fed are much nearer to reducing interest rates. The first sniff of reducing interest rates should give those risk assets like cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, etc., a strong boost to the upside. So that's what I'm hoping for. So between now and Friday, we may be treading water a little bit, as we often do before these important numbers come out. So maybe we're not going to see anything majorly positive before the Friday, but let's just hope those figures come out in our favor and give the market the boost that we're waiting for, because things have dipped a little bit lower than expected, and we can look at other assets. I'll flip through a few now. Obviously, we've got, once again here, we've got XRP, which again very much appears to be in some kind of corrective mode. It still appears to be corrective, but I do think that at some point, this being a correction to the downside, because it's all overlapping, we can see that this up move here overlaps this down move here, and everywhere you look is overlapping. Even within the moves, it's overlapping. And so I do expect this is a corrective move down for XRP, and I do think some point soon we're going to see some substantial upside. It may be the correction is already complete here at W. It could actually be an ABC complete, And we could have had a move up to the upside and just corrected down, and we could move sharply higher. So again, it's very much like Bitcoin. It's not absolutely clear or concise where we're going to go next, but I think we need to wait for some more data to come out to give us that clearer direction on where we're going. It means you won't actually catch the very bottom of the market, but that's always, as we say, an extremely risky thing to do, catching that falling knife. We cannot be certain to pick the exact low point in the market. And so we need to wait for some confirmatory signals. As I say, at least 2 signals I would look at. So I'd look maybe at candlestick formations, I'd look at RSI, look at divergences. You can even look at potential moving averages. You know, very often the market turns when it hits a moving average. 50, 200 moving average is very, very common. So there's particular moving averages that have more relevance than others. So you can put moving averages on your charts and choose from that. But as I say, at the moment, the market is very, very choppy, a little bit uncertain. But it's getting towards levels where I think DCAing is probably a sensible option, because yes, we might go a bit lower, but how much lower? As long as you're not leveraged, and as long as you're confident in the assets overall, which I think most of us are on the major crypto assets, maybe not some of the miners, but certainly on a lot of the majors, we are reasonably confident. And so the expectation is they'll move to all-time, or they'll move to the upside anyway. And yes, Bitcoin and perhaps Ethereum to all-time highs, because, you know, we now have the ETFs there. Certainly with Bitcoin, the Ethereum ETFs will be going live very soon. So that's very positive, because we do get a reasonable amount of institutional adoption, and it gives a lot of credibility. And even retailers actually like to just park their assets in a regulated entity like an ETF. So I think it'll mean parking a lot of money longer term in crypto assets, which is probably a good thing. And there'll still be that speculation to push it towards the upside. But in that continued theme of a bit of a sell-off in the market, even BNB, which has, you know, is one of those really strong assets, we can see even BNB has moved quite sharply to the downside. We can see here, charts are reacting a little bit slowly, but we can see here again, we've had a substantial move down. This, once again, I mean, it's all part of a larger correction. I don't think that we've finished the upside here. I think there's more upside still to come. If I try and scroll out a little bit there, we can probably see that I've got a wave 3 labeled there, a wave 4 maybe complete here, and then we may be even having an ending diagonal wave 5. But I think there's still more to go with this. I don't see this as a clear wave 5 movement to the upside. It may be part, as I say, of an ending diagonal perhaps. So we'll need to watch that closely to see where that's going. But let's look at some of the traditional assets. I will jump back to a couple of other interesting ones as well. But here is gold when it comes up. I'll just remove these circles, but I put them on there for a reason, but it's just on this scale, they're not particularly clear. Just remove those. That one. Hopefully that'll open out. Yeah. So we can see basically, I've said for some time that with gold, we're looking at a correction to the downside, probably to take us a little bit lower, because we've had from this point here an A, a B, and we're working on a C. And I've said for a long time that I do expect the C to go beyond the end of this A wave. So I am expecting lower, but this is actually really confirming it. We can see here this correction, I've got labeled as correction here, this first correction here, very choppy movement. And then following it, we've got a sharp move to the downside. Now we have a very similar situation right now, where we've got almost identical kind of movement here. They're both almost identical. And so we do expect some sharp movements probably to the downside to take us towards that C-level target, which would validate what we've been saying for a long time now, that we expect the price to move down to give us a C wave somewhat below this A wave. This would all overall be a big correction. So we would still then expect a new all-time high on gold to follow this. So I'm still very hopeful on gold that we will reach new all-time highs. But as you know, I've been extremely cautious of late with these corrective moves to the upside, meaning there's probably still a bit more downside movement to come to complete this larger A, B, C, and it's probably an expanded flat correction to the downside, or it could even be a WXY, but it's an expanded type correction meaning that the B wave goes beyond the origin of the A wave and the C wave goes beyond the end of the A wave. And so it's expanded. So expanded here to the upside and expanded further to the downside, most probably. So that's what we're expecting there with gold. We can see dollar index, when it comes up, is pretty much stuck at the moment. It's coming down a little bit today, so maybe that'll give us a little bit of respite, because we've had quite a hard sell-off really overnight on crypto. But now we're beginning to see a bit more weakness coming in dollar index. Maybe that'll start to turn crypto around. So there's every reason to think we might actually see a positive day on crypto at the end of the day, if this dollar index continues to fall. So we've had some kind of corrective move to the upside. It's not a 5-wave move to the upside. It seems to be corrective. So I do expect we'll probably see some downside. So I think crypto is likely to turn around fairly soon and give us a bit of upside. Solana, if I just move over to that, it's been one of the hardest hit, really. I suppose it's not massive, but being one of the harder hit assets. And I like to look at Solana again, if this chart will behave. We can see that basically from the top here, what I have labeled as a large wave 3 in blue, we've had a 5-wave move to the downside. And the reason I say 5-wave is because this wave 4 does not overlap into the territory of this wave 1 here. And so it's a valid 5-wave move. And then we have very clear, you can see it crystal clear, 3-wave move really to the upside. And then we've started to move down. So that if that's a 5-3-5, that would be what's called a zigzag in Elliott wave terms. And a zigzag is a corrective move. So meaning that once it's complete, we should move again to the upside above this previous local high here at $209 for Solana. So that being a 5-3-5, the fifth wave of this final move here may not be complete. I've got it labeled a bit lower. So it may not be complete, but I think we're nearing the end of a 5-3-5 correction. And ideally, I would expect, once again, a bit like gold, I would expect it to come below the end of this A wave. So I am expecting potentially a little bit lower on Solana, but sometimes these things can catch you out. So this is why DCAing is so important. It's never possible to get precise levels. You always expect the unexpected with trading. And so you don't put all your eggs in one basket. And DCAing, dollar cost averaging, is a method of basically not putting all your assets in at one particular price and not waiting for this final move down, which for all we know may not happen. And if you hadn't DCA'd from levels slightly higher, you would end up with no position when it comes, if and when, and I expect it will, move sharply to the upside. You would have no position if you're waiting for that final downside move. And I've learned this through bitter experience again, that if you wait for the final low price in something, that you will often miss out and it won't reach that price. And it feels like the market's working against you, because sometimes if you pile in too heavily early on, then the market will dip down, and probably dip down even a bit lower than you expect, and put you under a lot of pressure, a lot of emotional pressure, and stress, and give you fear and wanting to close a trade that then becomes painful. So this is why dollar cost averaging is so very, very important. It may feel like you're not getting as much potential gain. If you jumped in here, the market could push straight higher, but you've got to think, always think, I think, how bad a trade can go. What is the worst that's likely to happen? Obviously, we never know what will happen. What's the most likely worst case scenario in terms of downside here? And I think we could see potentially, if you measure this wave down here, transpose it to the top here, you could expect somewhat lower to come still, with it just being a 5-3-5, with the C wave being equal to the A wave. You could expect a little bit lower potentially for Solana, but it might not happen, as I say. So that's why DCA is so very, very important. We will just have a quick look at the SPX, which once again, when it comes up, just come off the all-time high the other day, but I think we're going to push once again to new all-time highs probably fairly soon. We do have, though, in place, we've got here, as we can probably see, some regular bearish divergence, and that occurs when you get higher highs in price and lower highs in RSI. it's reasonably mild. Reasonably mild here because the low is not much lower on the RSI, but it is fraction lower, as we can still see. It's lower if we can move that up fractionally. We definitely see lower price peaks on RSI, and we see higher price peaks on price, and we see a follow through with some negative candlesticks. So that's really a bit of a confirmation that this was a correct interpretation here, that we had the regular bearish divergence. So it's telling you the price is likely to decline from here. Doesn't mean it will continue to decline, but just told you there was a signal here, the price was likely to decline, and that's precisely what happened. So as I say, when you see that, I will always look for a confirmation with a candlestick, at least one closing negative candle, bearish candlestick to follow at least, before I'd even consider taking profit, protecting my position, shorting, whatever it might be. I'd wait for those confirmations, and I'd probably look for a couple of other indicators as well. But this was a reasonably good sign that the S&P was about to take a bit of a correction. But as I say, it may still have some way higher to go, especially if we start to see potential lowering of interest rates if we see weaker PCE on Friday. So I will be watching out for that. And then the meme coins, again, I say meme coins, we're just looking at the majors here. There's a kind of divergence between the useless memes and the solid memes. And the solid memes are the likes of Doge and Bonk, which isn't necessarily a meme really anymore. But those ones are very solid, and they perform much more now in line with the overall market. The other memes, which I call the useless memes or shit coins or whatever you want to call them, basically have no use case whatsoever. They're purely a speculative asset, and they're purely a gamble. So I don't like to get involved in those, but some of these other ones like Doge, I think they're amazing assets to potentially get involved with. Even Book of Memes has real use case behind it, and we can see 1.77. It's kind of on a par with much of the rest of the market. Even Litecoin has fallen more than Book of Memes. So these assets are now investable assets as far as I'm concerned. And then Jasmine, another one that's taken a sharp fall. They've got a big, amazing community. Yes, they've come from much, much higher levels, but I'm just looking at it where it is now. There's potential from around these levels. In fact, I'll probably just jump in there and have a quick look. Again, computer's behaving a little bit slowly, but here it is. We can see we had basically a 3, 4, 5, but we've had a correction from there to the downside. So an A, B, whether C is complete, whether C moves a little bit more to the downside, I'm not sure, but I think most likely it probably will. Just to give us C equals A in terms of the magnitude, from B to C, if the magnitude of that equals this A. So basically you'd measure A, transpose it to B, and look where C would likely end. So potentially we might still have a bit lower to go, but I think there's real potential for Jasmine to pump from levels maybe a little bit lower than here, but from around these sort of levels, and pump substantially higher than this local high here, which was at about 4.4 cents. So from where we are now at 2.9 cents, sorry, now, because it's come up a little bit, still very good potential for some serious upside there. So all in all, I think the markets are consolidating. I think they're treading water, as Bruce likes to say, ahead of the Friday PCE figures. They're also a little bit nervous with what's going on still in the Middle East. So we'll just check into oil as a final chart to check into. We can see that oil here has risen quite substantially of late, but once again, I'd have to revise this chart. It's probably on the daily, to be honest, that I was looking at. I'll just see if it still shows on the daily. But I drew in some divergence here, and this one actually showed, yeah, you can see it here. This is a different kind of divergence than what we just looked at. This one shows basically hidden bearish divergence. So the trend is down here, so lower lows on the price, and sorry, lower highs on the price, and higher highs on the RSI. So that tells you what's called hidden bearish divergence. So it's telling you price is likely to decline on oil. Most likely, if we see, I mean, I know that the OPEC, Saudi, they're looking at potentially at cutting oil production. which could push the price higher, and maybe that's what did push the price higher here. But if we see economy slowing at all, with PCE figures reducing maybe more than expected, then maybe that'll put downward pressure on oil. And that's what appears to be showing here, that we have this hidden bearish divergence, telling us that price should continue to the downside from where it is around about these levels. So overall, I think the inflation picture is probably getting better in the US. And just to reiterate, I know we've already seen interest rate cuts in Europe. We've seen them in Canada. The Bank of England have indicated they're going to have the next meeting should be an interest rate cut. And these are beginning to happen more and more around the world. And I think that it won't be long before America starts to see, if we see weaker PCE getting towards that 2% level, then I don't think it'll be long before the Fed follows suit. And if they do, the first hint of lower interest rates might be good for these risk assets. So whilst you might be feeling a bit of pain with the markets having sold off quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, I think there is some light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that we will push again to the upside fairly soon. So I don't think it's all over yet. People like to fear, with fear and greed, like to panic in the markets, thinking it's the end of the world. They're never going to go back up again. But I think the actual signs are that these are all corrective moves to the downside when we look at crypto. Even Ethereum, which again is another one that's sold off quite substantially. Ethereum, again, we may possibly see. I actually think the correction's probably over here. And I think we're probably moving up in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, and I think we're getting a correction down. I think Ethereum is set for a good rally fairly soon. We're seeing a lot of spikes down here, price shadows, into this support zone around here. So I'm actually very bullish Ethereum. I can't tell you whether we're actually at the bottom yet. We may dip a little bit lower, but I'm actually quite bullish Ethereum in particular. And I think it's a great asset to get involved with for potential. The fifth wave should take us substantially higher. And we don't see, interestingly, in this, what I call a C wave, we don't see an extension of the third wave. It's not extended the first, and it's not extended the third. To be extended, it would need to be at least 1.618. 0.618.
Translate into 8.
We need to see at least 1.618 times the previous wave. We don't see that. So I think that the fifth wave is probably going to be the extended wave. So I think there's some real substantial upside ahead of us for Ethereum. And again, we can see quite clearly here wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and I think wave 5 will be powerful and take us to new highs above this local high here of just over 4,000. So I actually think overall, this is a great time to start thinking about DCAing into lots of different assets, particularly the solid crypto assets. So I hope that's helpful today. Thank you so much for listening, and look forward to catching up with you tomorrow.
Great, Matt Dixon, always doing a wonderful job. Checking out the markets. It is everything is very much in flux, as I mentioned. War in general can not be bad for the markets. It can go up, but we have a lot of factors right now. One of them in specific, as I mentioned a little earlier, is this market making, which I think is probably the story of the day by the privately held central bank, the U.S. central bank, the Federal Reserve. So I have one of the interviews that I did there at the Consensus 2024. Consensus 2024 was Ben Kirkland. He's the CEO of DYOR, which stands for Do Your Own Research. Let's pull him on here and see what he has to say. This is Ben Kirkland from Consensus Conference. He's with CEO of DYOR. And we are back here at the Consensus 2024 event. It's been a great event so far. Of course, we have a lot of side events as well. People were out last night, but really still busy here this morning. We have more events tonight. We have our gala coming as well. I have with me here Ben Kirkland. He's the CEO of, do I say Do Your Own Research or DYOR? How do you guys pronounce it?
Pick your preference. We've gotten everything from DYOR to Dior, like Christian Dior.
Dior.
And
the CEO of Dior. No, I'm just kidding.
So we just had a quick chat here. Tell me a little bit about, I want to call it Dior, about doing your own
catchy,
research.
right?
It's catchy. And what brought you here to Consensus?
Yeah, thanks. So Dior, DYOR, is a all-in-one platform. It's kind of a split between your typical charting and analysis platform with a trading component as well. But on the back end of that, we've created something very unique, which is a token management platform for token issuers. So really the first of its kind in this realm. They'll actually have the ability to do everything from deployment of the contract to adding liquidity to locking that liquidity to launching on our own decentralized exchange. But beyond that, and going on to the long-term prospects, it's more of a focus on interaction and social management on the forward-facing side of things. So whereas with some of our competitors right now, you won't have the ability really to change anything. If you wanted to make any kind of meaningful change to, say, your socials or your website or anything like that, you would have to send somebody an email, possibly work with some, mysterious third-party broker to pay some exorbitant fee to try to get that fixed. With us, we want to bring that control and authority back to the folks that are working on those projects themselves and allow them to use this as an extension of their branding and marketing.
So that is pretty interesting. So I know you had joined the company recently. Tell me a little bit about your history. How long have you been in space? What were you doing before?
Sure, yeah. So I've been in the space since around 2016, so it's the beginning of 2017. First project that I ever worked on was actually one of the largest gainers of the 2017 bull run. It was a little...
There were a lot of gainers.
There were a lot of gainers. This was a little project called Einsteinium. It was a fork of Litecoin that was the proceeds from the mining was supposed to go to scientific research. We did grants for all sorts of things like cancer research and Alzheimer's, some really cool and interesting projects. So that was kind of my first foray into the space. It ended up being a top 15 by market cap token, which was very exciting, and rumors abound about us merging with Apple and all kinds of other wild stuff.
Yeah.
That's how it was back then.
Yeah.
And ever since then, advised on a number of different startups and things like that. I've been going to events like this for some years now. Actually was at Consensus back in 2018, 2019. Bunch of events out in Los Angeles and different places in North America. And most recently, we've been doing some events. We were at Token 2049 in Dubai.
Okay.
And so what brought us out here was really just to kind of connect with some of our influencer partners. We've got a lot of folks that are supporting our project, and so we wanted to make some time to spend some time with them and also to talk to some other projects about our token management tools, because it's really something that every token issuer can benefit from.
Interesting. So let's talk about like who your target user. So someone sees what it is, they go to your website. What is that? Who is that going to appeal to? Who is your target market?
Yeah, so it's both the token issuers themselves. Right now, there's just so much toggle tax between trying to go from tab to tab to tab, trying to manage a project. It can be very chaotic. And so this will help them streamline those efforts and make it more cohesive. We actually have account management system, so they can permission out different elements of that dashboard to different members of their team, much like a typical CRM tool like a Salesforce. Right?
Interesting.
And then on the forward-facing side of things, it's really that trader that is looking for that next opportunity in microcap coins. What's new, what's trending, and all of these sorts of things. Our information is coming to us much faster. So, for example, we have direct access to a data lake for the Solana side of things specifically. One of our infrastructure partners has a number of other partners in the space, but their typical packages have rate limits, and so that information is getting to the end user a bit slower than us. In some cases, we'll be getting the information in about 100 milliseconds, whereas a lot of our competitors are getting that upwards of 2, 3, 4 seconds. Those edges, that competitive edge really matters. So, for example, just as a connective story to the broader markets, the stock markets, there are all kinds of stories of people paying billions and billions of dollars building out, these pipelines from, say, Kansas City to the New York Stock Exchange, just to have 1 or 2 milliseconds of extra speed to try to get in those trades a bit faster. And so that's what we're providing to our end user. We're doing it in an amazing new constructive way. So the UX UI is markedly improved to anything that you are used to experiencing in this space. It's going to be much more akin to something that you're used to in the Web 2 world of really great products and services that are easy to use.
Cool. And so how much, what's the cost?
The cost for?
Well, let's say for the user and then maybe with the enterprise.
Sure.
Well.
Right now, it's absolutely free.
Okay.
There's going to be,
We like cost. What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, that's why it's funny because, when we're thinking about this, really our goal here at the moment is user acquisition. You can think of that about us like, kind of early days Facebook, right? Where we're really, really focused on growth. Yeah. And so therefore we want to make that barrier of entry as frictionless as possible for everybody. So if you're a user, yes, there will be trading fees, but the savings is actually noticeable right now. So we're anywhere from 33% upwards to 60% cheaper than trading on Uniswap, for example, even using Uniswap's own liquidity pools.
Right.
And so there's going to be a tremendous savings there. We're going to make a revenue, obviously, much like any other exchange does in those elements. But in terms of signing up for an account, if you're an end user and looking to trade, absolutely free. And for those token issuers, right now, we're offering free signups for them as well. So, please contact us, get involved, get these accounts set up, and you'll be able to experience this difference. It's remarkable.
That is really cool. So, all right, yeah. And then how about like a referral program and stuff like that? Do you guys have something like that works?
We do, and our referral program is a bit unique. We took a page from Binance. If any of you guys were familiar with that, I was actually one of the early folks to refer people, and those rewards were wildly enormous. We actually found an old copy of one of their leaderboards in which the number one person that was their number one affiliate, if you will, had earned themselves, and this is not a typo, they had earned themselves 3,000 Bitcoin as a result of these referrals. So we always kind of like to reference that. But the interesting thing about our referral program, there's typical, we have a token that's coming out. You're going to earn a little bit in token for everybody you refer. That's kind of a neat little perk. But the main perk really is that you're going to receive 10% of the trading fees, the profits from the trading fees for everybody you refer for life. And here's the kicker. Most of these accounts that are set up are typically through one wallet. And so therefore you could refer somebody, they use one wallet, but perhaps a year from now, or even 6 months from now, or even 2 days from now, they end up using a different wallet. With our account setup that is both Web 2 and Web 3, you'll be able to have an individual user and they'll sign up with all of their wallets. And therefore you, as the person who is referring them to the platform, will get credit for all of their wallets for life. So very exciting.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it here. Do your own research, DYOR. Thank you so much for coming on. Website, social media. How do people find you guys?
Yeah. So we are diorlabs.com. On socials, it's diorlabs_ is our Twitter/X. And on Telegram, we are dior_labs. So please check us out.
Ben, thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Well, there you have it, guys. Ben Kerlin. He is with DYOR, do your own research, or Dior, however you want to say it, labs. They have a platform. He told you all about it there. Pretty interesting. I put the site link right below my post. So if you're on X, that's easy for you to find. But it's, as he probably said, DYORDEX.com. So check them out. That is coming soon. A lot of times in these coming soon type of things, that can be pretty interesting, can be a pretty interesting play. You know, a fantastic PR person working for him. She has stayed in constant contact with me and made sure that we got this thing on the air. So always respect a good professional. So well, there you have it, guys. Another great show that we've had today, the Impact Money Show. I can tell you we are growing very, very fast. If you would like to get involved, and trust me, you would probably like to get involved, you can either go to the smc.tv. I got it on this banner the whole time, the smc.tv, or just go to smartmoneyculture.tv. Okay, they both go to the same site. Hit that contact us form and reach out, because we are growing. We are entering a lot more markets, many more markets. We're in front of millions of people on their TVs right now, on their TV. And I love social media. I love X. You guys know me. I love it. I do. I love it. I like the two-way conversation. But the ROI on TV is unbelievable. The ROI on TV is $7 for every $1 that's spent. We are talking about a massive tool here, and that's probably why it's so hard for normal people to break into it. You just go to social media. Why the big guys, they go to TV. TV is huge. Not taking anything away from social media. Social media has given us a voice, gotten us to this point. But let me tell you what, TV, ROI on TV is unbelievable. We're doing really well. Really happy about it. We will be doing a lot of different things over the next little while, entering some markets, more markets as well. We're doing some major events during the UN General Assembly in September. And anyway, always a pleasure, guys. Time for oh my gosh. And we recorded, we went out to my friend's place. We recorded a lot of the Rothschild's Tax, the song that I wrote, the Rothschild Tax. This thing is great. So I have a lot of the media from that. We had an amazing drummer. I don't know if I should drop his name or not. I guess I won't at the moment. Very famous drummer, famous guy, wonderful guy. And of course, my friend Randy. And we jammed out. We jammed out for like all night on Thursday. It was like funny. You know, you always think, you know, the band plays all night and, you know, this, that, and the other. And, oh, that's funny. But yeah, well, first of all, yeah, I had rehearsal with the girls. We're doing another play together. So I didn't get there until 10:30. Of course, I'm normally in bed by 10:30. I wake up at 5, right? So, I mean, I'm tired. But, you know, duty calls. The band calls. So we had to go and do our rehearsal. And we had this famous drummer who was a friend. He's a really great guy. You're going to meet him. I'm going to bring him on the show. He's a really interesting story as well. But we worked on that Rothschild Tax song quite a bit. It's a historic song. I'm really proud of it. Can't wait to play it for everybody a bit more. The Rothschild's Tax, the Rothschild's Tax, the Rothschild's Tax. It comes off our backs. The Rothschild Tax. It's the Rothschild Tax. Anyway, pretty catchy tune. We'll get that. We'll be working on that jingle. You'll hear more of it. The rehearsal or the practice or whatever went really well. I will share some of that. The videos that I have, I think no other people got videos. Mine are so long, you got to cut them up and you got to do all this other stuff. So it's a little annoying, but we're all kind of recovered at this point because it was up all night on Thursday. We were rehearsing. I went to bed at like 5 in the morning or something. I was cooking steaks at 4 in the morning, something like that. We finished, but that's the life of the rock stars. No, just kidding. But I'll tell you what, it is a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun in front of us. And, you know, as the world melts down here, there are going to be certain that emerge. And we are going to shape the world in the future that we leave our kids. Because I'll tell you what, the way the setup is right now is not okay. This is not an acceptable situation to leave our kids. This debt slaveriness to the central bank, completely controlled. Doesn't matter who we elect. And can we even elect them? Are we even going to be able to elect Donald Trump? The great Donald Trump? That Donald Trump? I mean, like him or not, the guy is not perfect. He's not perfect, not by a long shot. I mean, any of us could go on and on and on about how he's not perfect, right? The guy's not perfect. There's no doubt about that. But for right now, he is the man. He's the man for the job. He's certainly the best thing we got. We have a choice of. Now, do we even have a choice? That remains to be seen. It looks pretty bad to me, guys. I'll be honest. We have the magic electronic voting machines that never changed anything. They're magic electronic voting machines. Like literally, these things are set. I mean, they're even like programmed to be rigged. I mean, that it's like this has been proven over and over again in courts. So we still have the magic electronic voting machines. I should say appears to be or something like that. Not financial advice, appears to be. This is all for entertainment purposes. I get paid to post. Not financial advice. So we have the magic electronic voting machines. We have the absentee ballots, which they're calling mail-in ballots right now, which are really hard to authenticate. And there seems to not really be any, like, you know what I mean? So they're going around. The news report comes out yesterday or the day before about how they're at the welfare offices. They're handing out voter registration forms with no citizen eligibility requirement on there. Well, who gets money from the welfare office? Well, I don't know whether you know it or not. But apparently, from what I understand, the people who have entered the country illegally. So we have the absentee ballot, millions and millions and millions of absentee ballots, and what was the other thing? So we have the magic electronic voting machines. We have the mail-in ballots, and there's something else I always say. But well, the media is totally in control. Central banks totally in control. The cartel, the central banking cartel, is in control of this country. So will we have a choice? And then if we do have a choice, if he ends up getting in, I mean, since everything is just so, manipulable, I think if he gets in, they're just going to make sure that he's not able to do anything. And I've actually said that a number of times. I think that if he gets in, that's going to be that. But they might not even let him get in. They might not let him get in. I mean, he's a crowd favorite. But you see even the media, and I just talked about how important TV was, how powerful TV is. We can talk in our echo chambers forever about what's going on, but if the TV says something else, like 90% of everybody, or whatever percent, really high percentage of everybody, so only watching the TV. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. I do think that as well, I see we have, the new RNC people. I guess I won't name them. I don't know why. Sure, I will name them. We got the new guy who was kind of like a never Trumper, I think. And he's the head. And then you have Laura Trump, who's the second in command. And Laura's saying, we're going to go after everybody. We're going to go after everybody that cheats. Don't cheat. We're going to go after you. But it's kind of like, so they're going to go after him where? In the same court systems that have been like cooked for the last like however long, that Trump can't even get a fair trial in? We're going to go after. So we're going to let them cheat. And I know, oh no, we're not going to let them cheat, but you are, because we didn't do anything about the magic electronic voting machines or the absentee ballots, right? Or the mail-in, whatever they're calling them now. So, and, the third one, and is tens of millions of people who have entered the country illegally who are obviously being told, or apparently being told, to go vote. So those are three big things. But so telling people that they're going to get prosecuted in a court system that's completely rigged, I don't think is a very scary proposition for people. Do you think that these people who have entered illegally think that and nothing happens, and thinks that something's going to happen to them when those people that let them in illegally are giving them, I mean, the whole apparatus that let them in illegally is now giving them money, is telling them, here, go vote? And you think they're going to get in trouble? Do you think they care? I don't think so. And then do you think that the people that more than likely, or apparently I should say, cheated in the last election are scared of something happened to them and nothing happened last time? And when Trump won in 26, nothing happened to anybody either. So the reason I'm saying it is because we have to change. We do have to change. And the change starts with us. You guys have to stop being scared to come into Washington, D.C. You got to let your voice be heard. We do need to try to get Trump elected. I hope we can get him elected. But we may not. And then what? And then what if we get him elected and he's not able to do anything? I mean, even if he takes the House, who do we have? We have this guy. What's his name? Speaker. I don't even know his name because he's such a weasel. He is. Not saying that I wouldn't say hi to him. I talk to all kinds of weasels. Johnson, Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson. Everybody is more important except you, Speaker Johnson. Billions of dollars for everybody else to protect their borders, but not yours. And yeah, I know Trump says, okay, he's good or whatever. I mean, Trump is in his position. He's got to support the speaker, right? I mean, that's it. But you don't. You're supposed to put pressure on the speaker. Why are you doing this? I know why he's doing it, because he answers to the central bank. Anyway, that's it. It's been fun, guys. I am signing off here. I got our little pretty soon we're going to have our new jingle. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.